What's going on, my soul family? Welcome back to another episode of the Awake with Jake show. On today's episode, I'm going to be dropping in and sharing with you 8 signs of a conscious masculine man. Now, I want to start out by saying that I believe a large part of the healing of our world starts with the healing and the awakening of men. Let me say this again. I believe that a large part of the healing and awakening of our world starts with the healing and awakening of men. And the reason why I say this is because a lot of the dark masculine energy that lives within this world has come from men being numb to their emotions, not being compassionate, not being loving, not being gentle, not being integrated with their heart. And they're just living in their egos. So I believe that as men heal and awaken, we will start to purge that toxic masculine energy from all of us because we all have both masculine and feminine energies. So as this toxic masculine energy is purged from us, you will start to see the healing of our planet really start to happen. Now, I do believe that's happening right now. I do believe that the darkness and the evil and the corruption is being brought to light. I do believe it's being purged from our world, and we're seeing it happen right before our eyes. And when you know, you know. You can see it because when you're awake in this matrix, you can see what's happening. But when you're calcified, even at your physical body, you're not really aware of what's going on. And I lived in that calcified state, that numb, unconscious state for a very long time. And I was taught as a young boy, becoming a man, that you don't show emotions, you don't show weakness. But we're not taught that weakness is being impulsive. We're not taught that weakness is being reactive. We're not taught that weakness is needing to control everything and everyone. We're not taught those things. In fact, we're taught the opposite. We're taught to dominate and be powerful and to be strong and tough. But here's the paradox here. The more you integrate with your emotions as a man, the stronger you become because you're not so reactive and impulsive to challenging situations. I do believe that men are healing. I do believe that men are awakening. I see more and more men every single day showing up, showing an interest, doing the healing work in the work that I put out to the world. I see more and more men signing up for my next coming event in Texas. I'm witnessing this. I'm watching this. So I do believe that men are awakening. I do believe that men are starting to connect with their true power, not their ego power. So let's get into these 8 signs. Number 1, he takes time to process things before reacting, meaning he's not impulsive. Now, I also want to put this out here as well as a little disclaimer. Just because I share these 8 signs doesn't mean that men aren't still going to fuck things up, aren't still going to break things and mess some things up. Because that's how we grow, that's how we learn, we make mistakes. So, this doesn't mean that a man is going to become perfect and never make mistakes again. Because that's how he learns, by making mistakes. Now, if he keeps making the same mistake over and over again, and he just keeps making excuses for it, that's a whole nother story, and you shouldn't accept that. You shouldn't accept that. When I talk about being impulsive and reactive, that's basically the need to be right? To need to control something. And the reason why men are very impulsive and reactive is because their trauma is being triggered within their body. Their pain is being triggered within their body. The reason for anyone being impulsive and reactive, men, women, all alike, the reason for this is because of the pain that lives within your body. So when you find yourself being very reactive or impulsive, what's the reason for that? What's the reason for this impulsive, reactive feeling that you feel to stop the situation or control the situation or abandon the situation? That's an impulsive reactive action, right? is when you need to abandon the situation because you feel uncomfortable. You run from it. You run from your feelings. You run from your emotions. So, a sign of a conscious man, and once again, this is only an example because this doesn't mean he's always going to do this. And if he does, that's amazing. But if he's more likely to process and breathe deeply into his body when he feels uncomfortable and soften the front of his body, and then respond from that place, respond from a place of consciousness versus unconsciousness, versus a healthy response versus an impulsive reaction. That's a great sign. That's a great sign for a man who's working on himself to not be so impulsive and reactive, to not make these impulse decisions. Because every time you make impulsive decisions, I mean, I know me personally, it's almost like you're like, maybe I shouldn't have done that. So breathe and soften and ground yourself and stay connected to your heart as you move throughout the day. Now, the one thing with holding the masculine frame means that you're able to be integrated with your emotions. Your emotions are contained and not explosive. So even if you feel anger, even if you feel triggered, even if you feel impatient, hold the masculine frame as a man and don't blow up. That means that you're able to sit with your emotions. You're able to sit with your pain. You don't need to be so reactive and impulsive. That doesn't serve you and it doesn't serve anyone else. And if you're in a relationship with a woman, it damn sure doesn't serve her because it's not going to make her feel safe. So learn to sit with yourself. Learn to process things. Now, this is something that I'm continuously learning to do and become better at, is to not be impulsive, is to not be reactive. Number 2, he has integrity with his words and his actions. The biggest thing with a masculine man, one of the biggest things with a masculine man is having integrity. To not lie, to not cheat, to not do wrong to other people, to just be a conscious man and be aware of other people in this world, to have integrity with the things that you say, to take accountability if you mess something up, with the things that you do with your actions, matching your words to your actions and having consistency with that. If you tell someone that you're going to do something, of course, hopefully in a positive way, follow through and do it. Because you build trust with other people and you build trust with yourself by doing what you say you're going to do. Doing what you say you're going to do. So that would mean that you don't say mean things when you get upset, that you don't act prideful, that you need to be right all the time. Taking accountability and saying, I'm sorry, I messed up. Do you know how powerful that is? Do you know how powerful that is when you make a mistake and you take accountability for that? Especially as a man, putting aside your ego, putting aside your pride, saying, you know what? I'm wrong. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for hurting you. Not I'm sorry for hurting you, but men love to do that. People love to do that as a whole. Let me excuse what I just did. No. I am sorry for hurting you. And with that deep presence, looking directly into the person that you hurt, I'm sorry for hurting you. And just sitting with them. I'm sorry for hurting you. I apologize. Taking accountability for your actions is extremely attractive. It's extremely attractive, especially in the context of a relationship, friendship, intimacy, whatever you want to talk about in this moment. Accountability is very attractive. Don't be afraid to say sorry. I messed up. Number 3, his direction has clarity and confidence. Now, once again, this doesn't mean that he's always going to have clear direction. This doesn't mean he's always going to feel super confident. There may be moments where he feels insecure, where he's doubting himself, and that's okay. It's okay to make mistakes as a man. And I think there's so much pressure put on people in this world to be perfect, to always get it right. But the thing is, we learn through our mistakes. We grow through our mistakes. So be okay with messing some shit up. Be okay with messing some shit up. That's how we learn. That's how we grow. But if you're so afraid to do something that makes you feel uncomfortable, you'll never grow. Maybe it's the job that you're at. That's a comfortable, complacent job that you go to every day because it's familiar. But inside, you're like, man, this sucks. I want something different. I want to serve my mission at a deeper level. The thing is, the timing is never going to be just right. The timing is never going to be just right. There's always going to be a little bit of fear there when you do something that you don't know exactly what you're doing or do something that you haven't mastered. But I'm telling you in this moment that by doing what you're afraid of, doing that thing that's uncomfortable to you, you will grow and you will figure it out as you go along this path. But if you never do it, then you'll never experience the growth that you're needing. It's very easy to become comfortable and complacent in in this world because remember, this matrix wants you plugged into a state of conformity, a state of being just comfortable and just getting by. They want everyone calcified, they want everyone weakened. But as the masculine men awaken, the men who protect, the men who support, the men who lead consciously, that is a huge part of the healing of our planet. But if men continue to stay locked in their egos, all about what can I get, controlled by their lustful sexual desires, controlled by their desire to make a bunch of money and self-serve, controlled by the need to have power and be in control all the time, those needs are only to serve your ego. When you shift that, everything starts to change. So having clarity and confidence within your direction is huge. But you're not always going to have clarity and confidence. You're not always going to have a clear direction. But continue to go into that and to sit with that and process it. You're not always going to have all the answers. You're not always going to have it all figured out. But just continue to sit with it and clarity will come. You cannot force this process of awakening. You cannot force this process of healing. It has to unfold naturally. Just like within nature, everything unfolds naturally. Just like the seasons change, seasons are changing within you. And be okay with that process. Number 4, his mission serves more than just his ego. Now, this is kind of what I was getting into by doing something that's just more for just yourself. A sign of a conscious masculine man is he has a mission to serve. He has a deep mission to be of service. Now, when I first got into this work, I didn't really know how I was going to serve. I just knew I wanted to serve. I knew I wanted to help people. And the reason why I wanted to help people is because I had went through so much pain and anger and addiction and abuse and trauma early on in my life that I was like, I felt like I had almost escaped it. I felt like I'd kind of broken free of that way of being, of that really shitty way of being. That's really what it felt like. It's just utter disgust. I felt like I broke free of that and I found happiness. So I was like, I want to help people now. I want to help other people find this. It's almost like you found the golden ticket in this human experience. And you're like, well, hey, I want to share this golden ticket with other people. And when you start doing that, when you start serving a mission deeper than just your ego, everything in your life starts to change because it's fulfilling. It's fulfilling to you at a soul level. And it takes extreme courage, vulnerability, putting yourself out there to the world, just helping people in whatever way you can, just being a good person and giving back to be of service. And you'll notice that when you put it out there to the world, when you help other people, however you can, the universe will always provide for you. And the beautiful part about this is you never do things to get things. I want to tell you a little story right now, too, that I have coming through to me that I want to share with you. The other day, I was about to do a workout, and I'm standing in my front room looking through the window, and I saw this guy pull up in this pickup truck. Now, they had just cut a tree down, a very large tree across the road from my house. And these pieces were probably 400 or 500 pounds a piece. And they just left the wood there on the side of the road for people to come and get. But like I said, these pieces were about 400 or 500 pounds a piece. So I saw this guy pull up in a pickup truck, and he was an older gentleman. And I could see that he wasn't in great shape. He was kind of had some type of hip thing where he could barely walk. And I thought to myself, I'm like, is he about to put these pieces of wood in the back of his truck right now? I'm like, I give him credit because he was using it for firewood. That's what he wanted it for. So he pulled out 2 ramps and he put them on the back of his truck. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, wow, he's about to roll these pieces of wood up on the back of this truck. That could be bad. So he gets this probably 300-400 pound piece about 3/4 of the way up the ramp, and he runs out of breath. And I'm like, oh boy. He runs out of steam about 3/4 of the way up. And I said, oh shit. And the thing falls off and almost takes his foot off. And I'm like, okay, I can't watch this anymore. I have to help this guy. So I threw on a pair of work gloves and I walked across the street and I said to him, hey, can I give you a hand with this? And he said, you know what, bud? He was kind of like a old timer. He said, you know what, bud? I'm not too prideful to accept your help. I said, all right, great. So I stood out there for, half hour, maybe helping him load these giant pieces up in the back of his truck, getting firewood. And he pulled away, just big shit eating grin, smiling, happy. And it made me feel good just to go out and help him. And I'm standing I went back over to my house. And I'm standing there doing the workout now at this point, sweating, working out. And all of a sudden I see his truck pulling into my driveway. I'm like, why is he here? What's he doing right now? And he gets out. He comes walking across the driveway into my lawn, and I open the door, and he's got a 6-pack of beer in his hand. And I said, oh, man, thank you. He goes, bud, it's the least I could do for you. You really helped me out a lot, and you saved my ass over there. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for helping me. And he handed me the beer, and he walked off. And I thought to myself, how interesting is that? How interesting is that when you help someone, they naturally want to give something back to you? When you help people, the universe naturally wants to provide for you. It's the law of reciprocity. It's how it works. So when your mission is to be of service and to help people, you will always be provided for. You will always be taken care of. But we have such a backwards way of being where we think that we have to do things that we don't really want to do in order to get things that we don't really even want, right? Like that's how backwards our thinking is when it comes to this world. We do things that we don't really want to do. We go to a job we don't really want to be in to get something in return. But how often do you naturally just freely give your energy to help other people? Because I'm telling you right now, when you do that, when you are of service and you help people, and however you do that, however you help people, when you're just a good person, the universe will always provide for you. Number 5, he has a deep, grounded presence. Ooh, 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 ooh. Ooh, a deep, grounded presence. Now, I'm sure the women listening right now are like, yes, I love that within a man. I love when a man is deeply grounded and present with me. That is so attractive. I heard so many women over the years say that. I love a man who is present with me. In fact, it's a huge turnoff when a man is scattered and distracted and flighty. Okay? So when a man is deeply grounded and present, by the way, you can't fake being deeply grounded and present. You either are or you aren't. And it's something you can work at, it's something you can practice, but it cannot be faked. And I think there's probably some spiritual playboys out there right now that are probably trying to fake being deeply grounded and present just to get laid. I had to throw that in there, right there. So I think presence comes through your awareness. I think presence comes with your ability to be in the moment, to practice meditation, to sit still and not always be distracted and busy, 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 go, go, go. I think there's extreme power in a man who is deeply present and grounded in that moment because it creates safety in the environment that he's in. Number 6, he's not afraid to be vulnerable. I want to tell you a story about this too. When I first got into personal development, into this type of work, I heard this word vulnerability and I was like, what the fuck does that even mean? Like, I'm like, vulnerability? Like, I don't want to feel my emotions. I'm a man. I'm not going to feel that. But as I started to heal myself and like to release all the stuff that was inside of me, I got to this place of it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to cry like a man. It's okay to cry like a man. I think that men that are willing to be vulnerable and feel their pain, to feel their hurt, I think it takes extreme courage and strength. Now, this doesn't mean that you become controlled by your emotions and you're always in your feels. You hold the masculine frame of structure and support while feeling the feminine essence flow through you. You hold the masculine frame of structure and support while feeling your pain, feeling your anger, and just let it flow through you and let your heart be cracked open and let that go. Now, it's a continuous process of rinsing and repeating. Just like the shampoo bottle says, rinse and repeat. This process is not easy. The first time you do it, you're going to be extremely uncomfortable. And the next time you do it, you'll be extremely uncomfortable. And the time after that, feeling your emotions as a man, especially, and probably for women as well, is extremely uncomfortable, especially in a healthy way. To release that anger, to release that rage that you feel, which is something that I teach at my events, to really release that pain that you're holding on to release it once and for all. Number 7, he naturally wants to protect and provide. A conscious masculine man is a natural protector. He wants to protect his woman. He wants to protect his tribe. He wants to protect his loved ones. And it's not saying that he's overprotective because he's afraid. It's just he's naturally protective. He naturally wants to provide support. He naturally wants to create a safe space. He naturally wants to lead because his gift is in his ability to give. And he wants to give that love and that safety and that support to those around him. That is a huge sign of a conscious masculine man. Now, if you take that strong alpha masculine away from a species, it weakens the species. And we all have this strong masculine energy within us. Men specifically have it deeply anchored inside of them. And once they activate that sacred masculine energy and they purify their ego shit, they become so much more strong and integrated. They're able to protect at a deeper level. They're able to provide and lead at a deeper level consciously. Number 8, he's clear with his communication. A big thing about a conscious masculine man is his communication is very clear. He says more with less. He says more with less. Think about that for a second. A man who is clear with his communication will be able to say more with less. He won't over-explain himself. He processes things before he speaks. He's clear with his communication. You don't feel like he's flighty and all over the place and ungrounded and not really sure of himself and Peter Panning around because he's insecure or uncertain within himself. He's clear with his communication. He's clear with his boundaries. He's willing to speak how he really feels, even if that feels uncomfortable. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this episode. I hope that it brought you a ton of value. If it did, please take a screenshot of it and share it to your Instagram story and tag me at underscore Jake Woodard. And if you would like to do some in-person work with me and hundreds of other men and women from around the world this January, go to jakewoodard.com/awake to register for my next event. Please note that spaces are limited and seats are selling out very quickly. Once again, that link is jakewoodard.com/awake to register today. As always, stay open, stay loving, and stay connected to that beautiful source within you.